Hey everyone, it's Michael Goosebumps fan. Today I'm going to be talking about a thing like Goosebumps. I had to shut the little thing on the side of my camera. That's what that little click noise was. I feel like the camera's too close to me. I don't know, but maybe it is, maybe it's not. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost, the 1999 film. Yeah, this is my VHS copy from when I was a child, and I have seen this movie and the previous film to this in the Scooby-Doo franchise called Zombie Island, or Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. Which I also talked about here on the channel at one point. Witch's Ghost and Zombie Island messed with me so bad when I was a kid, specifically Zombie Island, but this one got me too a lot. There are some great things about this movie, but there are also some really bad things about it. Not like horribly, like things that could ruin the entire film for most people, but just messy type things, and I'll get into that in a little bit. One is more of a personal bias type thing, but again, we'll get there in a little bit. So the first thing, what is this episode about? Basically, Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost starts off with the group going to this town. And this town basically has a famous writer that Velma is familiar with, and none of the other people are, but he's a famous horror writer, kind of like a Stephen King type of guy. Played by Tim Curry, by the way. This man has ancestors who used to apparently be accused of being a witch, but also was more of a Wiccan, which we'll get into that in a little bit. Yeah. So the gang gets together. Of course, most of the people are here. You have Frank Welker, of course, is playing Fred. Mary Kay Bergman is playing Daphne. I believe she's the same actress who played her in Zombie Island. B.J. Ward is back playing Velma. Like I said, Tim Curry is playing Ben. And Scott Innes, or Scott Ines, I think his name is Ines, but I could be wrong. He's playing Scooby-Doo and Shaggy in the film. I like the movie. I had a good time watching it this time. It's just not great. It's not amazing like I remember it being, but I do think it's relatively good. A decent, fun movie for the most part. Has a lot of cool stuff in it, a lot of great animation, and once again, kind of like on Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, I really like the color to the film. I think there's a lot of colors to it. They're very vibrant. Of course, this is more of a... I think it came out in November when it came out. According to IMDb, it was released on October 5th, 1999. Sorry, I confused it with something else. This has very much a fall-time feel to it, which really adds a lot to the movie, I think. I think a lot of people don't realize how much this is a fun thing to watch around that October and fall type of month. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought there was a lot of cool stuff to it. All of the great advantages of Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island are relatively included here. There's just some things I nitpick here and there. But anyway, getting back to the actual story that I do want to tell you a little bit about. It's very much classic Scooby-Doo, just like Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island was. And yet at the same time, I do think it's relatively special for what it is. It's trying to do something a little bit different, and I think it does it for the most part in a well-executed way. The gang go to this town that is very much ready for a fall festival type thing, and this town has a certain area within the town itself that's designed to be very much like back in the Puritan Pilgrim type days with the Salem witch trial type stuff, for example. And of course a lot of the folklore based around this town is how that Ben Ravencroft, who is Tim Curry's Stephen King type writer, horror guy, his ancestor, like I said, apparently was a Wiccan, and they keep making this constant point throughout the film that she's not a witch, that she was a Wiccan, like there's any difference whatsoever. And I know there's Wiccans out there that will sit there and argue nonstop, but as a Christian who has researched the stuff and looked into it, it's witchcraft. Okay, let's just make it very clear. It's witchcraft. I don't care what people say. It is. God makes it very clear it is. They keep going out of their way throughout this movie to keep talking about the difference between Wiccans and witchcraft. And it's so annoying. It's so obvious now in 2019 what they're doing with this. It wasn't obvious back in the day with my family, with my friends, and it should have been obvious for all of us growing up. But it wasn't, and we were fooled. And for the most part, I like the movie. Like I said, it's a good movie. You have things like that, though, that irk the crap out of me. And there's like a whole thing focused on the Wiccan versus witch thing, and it almost becomes part of the solution for the movie itself, which irks the crap out of me even more. It's not exactly what you think, that's not a spoiler, but sort of kind of it is at the same time. With this big fall festival that's coming up that Ben Ravencroft wants his friends to, which I mean Shaggy, Scooby, and all of those folks, the gang itself, he wants them all to participate in this. And just see how cool it is, see all the different attractions they're going to have for this fall festival, especially the pilgrimage, Puritan-type village thing that they have set up. with real look-alike barns and just all of that. It's really neat. There's people outside doing the butter thing where they put butter in that little canister and they push the wooden stick up and down to try to do whatever they do to the butter. I don't know what that does to it, but it does something to it. I know that much. And most of the time, there's not really anything going on mystery-wise. Mostly the gang is just kind of hanging out until all of a sudden, when Scooby and Shaggy are walking home one night, the ghost of the accused witch of Ben Ravencroft's ancestor shows up and starts flying through the sky and shooting fireballs out of her hands. That was really cool. I've always liked that scene. I always get chills when you see her just pop up above the tree line out in the woods. It's always eerie, and that fall aspect adds so much to the movie. It adds such a cool October feel to it. I think you would like it a lot. It feels so much like a Goosebumpsy type thing when you read the Halloween type of books or see the Halloween-based episodes for Goosebumps, and just how vivid they are with this Halloween feel to them. It makes you feel a lot like what you did if you lived here in America when you were a kid in the 90s and saw everybody decorating, all the costumes, all of these wonderful memories we were blessed with growing up. And it just adds a lot to it, especially for myself, since I grew up watching this and Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island so much. It has a lot to offer, honestly. And like I said, the coloring makes it even better, because everything from the backgrounds look just amazing in this movie. But now you have this witch's ghost thing kind of haunting around, I guess. But not constantly. Like, she just kind of pops up here and there throughout the movie. And it becomes the mystery. Like, the gang has to try to figure out what's up with this thing, how it ties back to Ben Ravencroft. And it's fun. Like I said, for the most part, it's fun. It's not, like, amazing or anything. One of my favorite things in the film, really two different parts of the film, but one of my favorite things in the film itself is what I did not realize at the time, is a Wiccan/witch band called the Hex Girls, as in curse, a hex, curse. And the Hex Girls are amazing. I love the music that they made for them in this movie. I mean, yeah, it's still kind of like a witchcrafty type song type thing. If you've heard it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you should look up the songs because they're pretty cool. They have some really good music to them, some really great, like, 90s metal guitar type stuff. Like, I love it, man. I think that the Hex Girls music in this movie adds so much to it. The music overall is really good. I wouldn't say the whole soundtrack is as good as On Zombie Island's soundtrack, which makes that movie even more special than it already is. But the soundtrack here is good. I like it a lot, especially the Hex Girls music. It adds so much to the movie. There's so many, just, to this day, there are lines in those songs that chill me to the bone. I don't know how to explain it. It's just like the melodies to them. Somebody really special came up with those songs, and I really dig it. I can't tell you enough about how much I appreciate and like those songs. As bad as I consider certain aspects of the songs are, with the band themselves being kind of a group of witches, it's three girls. They make music. They're going to be playing as a band in the Fall Festival. And throughout Scooby-Doo history after this movie came out, of course, we saw different appearances of the Hex Girls. This was apparently the first time they ever appeared in anything Scooby-Doo-wise. And I always thought it was cool when I was growing up to see them pop up every once in a while in different things. Whether it be, I think they did a couple of appearances in TV shows, but I know for sure they popped up in a movie or two every once in a while. It'd be weird if this new Scoob movie that's coming out, the new live-action Scooby-Doo, it'd be really cool if they showed the Hex Girls on that. I'd be a little surprised, but it'd be kind of cool, honestly, in my opinion, because everybody likes the Hex Girls when it comes to Scooby-Doo fandom. Not that I'm the biggest Scooby-Doo aficionado, but the Hex Girls, man. Everybody knew about them that liked Scooby-Doo. Anyway, the movie is good. I like the voice acting. I think the soundtrack, like I said, is good. Animation's very solid, very flowing smoothly, I would say. It's worth the time, I would say. If you want something fun to watch this fall that's just different, not something typical like Monster House or Nightmare Before Christmas, if you want something different and something kind of familiar at the same time and very much a 90s reminiscent feeling to it, Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost, I think, is something going to be, I think you like a lot, honestly. It's definitely worth the time and worth the money, in my opinion. You might want to rent it first, just to see if you like it more. I certainly like On Zombie Island way more than I like this movie, but I do in many ways love this for nostalgia factor. But I do think overall, just trying to separate myself from that, I think it's just simply a good movie. It has a lot to offer, it's fun, it's good for kids and adults, I would say, too, since I'm 25 next month. It has a lot to offer, and I haven't seen this in a long time. I haven't watched this VHS of this movie in probably over 10 years, honestly. It's been a long, long time, but I'm glad I got a chance to sit down and rewatch it for this month and doing this video here on the channel. But anyway, if I had to rate Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost on a 5-star basis, I'd probably give this like a 4 out of 5. You know, I don't really have like a high or low setting on that. It's just kind of a 4 out of 5. It's good. I like it. I have a lot of memories with it. I have a lot of nostalgic things about it, but stuff like the Wiccan Witch thing that they keep focusing on in the movie so drastically. I know it's relatively important for the plot, especially with the ending of the film, but it just irritates me because it's so... It feels like a brainwashing type thing. Like, we're going to educate the kids on religion. Like, that's what it comes across as, and it really irks me, honestly. Even as a Christian, where we're guilty of doing that with a lot of kids' entertainment ourselves, which I don't think is entirely bad because we have the truth and Wiccans don't. It's probably offensive, but it's the truth. Anyway, it gets annoying. It's just like with SJW propaganda and most things nowadays. I don't like it. I don't like seeing it. I don't like having to hear that nonsense every time I turn around with Hollywood, whether it be on Twitter, whether it be in movies, anything. So it does a little preaching here in the movie. Just wanted to give you the heads up on that as well. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. What are your thoughts on Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost? Put your thoughts and comments down in the comment section down below. And again, if you like Goosebumps, which is what my channel's pretty much focused on, I think you'll like this as well. I think it's a really solid little entertaining piece that you might enjoy. It has some creepier moments to it too, being a Scooby-Doo type thing and being kind of a... when Scooby-Doo had kind of evolved into more of like a... I guess a young adult type thing more than a kid's thing. I mean, this could work for both audiences, honestly. Same thing with on Zombie Island. But, yeah, I like it. I think it's good. Anyway, what are your thoughts? Put them down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say about the film itself. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you grow up on it? Or are you just now seeing it for the first time after I did this review? I'd love to hear what you have to say. Anyway, thank you for watching. God bless you today, and goodbye.